there's a small number of people in Silicon Valley and tech circles and the terminally online who understand what AI is going to do and what it means for the world, how big it is. And I think over the next few years, the rest of the world is going to realize that. And I really think it's going to be the biggest bubble in financial like history.
We basically made a bet when it was like $2 or something.
It's
that
like
it
$2, yeah.
go above $3.40, and after the week after the election I got crushed. So I said I would wear this. This is a good time. I would wear this on the podcast. So I'll put it on right now.
You look good.
Yeah, you look cute.
You look really good, dude.
Nothing said on the Hivemind is a recommendation to buy or sell securities or tokens. This podcast is strictly for informational purposes only, and any views expressed by anyone on the show are solely our own opinions, not financial advice.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Hivemind podcast. The goal of the podcast is to provide an inside look into what we like to call the Delphi Hivemind, bringing together some of our brightest minds from each of the divisions to share insights, alpha, and shitposts. Today, Jan's at a wedding, so we have an unusual crew. I think it's the first time we've had us four on together. Ceteris Paribus heads up our institutional research arm, a regular on the Hivemind. Jan's not here. Then we have Duncan, the prodigious shitcoin scavenger and investor, and Jason, who is head of markets for the research division. And obviously me, I head up Delphi Labs, our protocol R&D arm focused on incubating and accelerating new Web3 primitives. So it's been a very volatile week in crypto. Maybe we can start by just talking a bit about markets. Like right now, we're recording on Wednesday at about 4 p.m. GMT. Bitcoin's back up near 100K. We've had a bit of a bounce from the lows where it touched below 90. Maybe Jason, you want to kick us off with like just quickly what happened with the macro, why we're pumping today, the CPI. I know it's not particularly interesting. Maybe we can rush through it and then just get everyone's takes on where we are and whether anything's changed for you and your thesis.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, like Jose just said, it's been a pretty volatile couple weeks actually, right? Pretty much dating back to the start of the year. We had a sell-off pretty much with the FOMC at the end of December. We were at 108K. I'm pretty sure that was maybe one of the last times I was on. I was like, yeah, markets look great. And then within a couple hours, we nuked from like 100K down to low 90s. And then to start the year, we had a nice little pump, which sold off. Everybody got liquidated.
And the last Hivemind, we were like, had the most bullish targets ever for crypto in 25, and the market proceeded to dump pretty much the same.
Yeah, we have an excellent track record when it comes to bull posting on here.
Well, I think we were bull posting the AI frameworks and stuff, and then they all got cut in half in like the next couple days.
Wait, when? Was I there for that?
They're so back now.
No,
my biggest takeaway from the dump, and sorry, we kind of like we're whatever digressing here. My biggest takeaway from like the dump and this rebound here is that like nothing has changed fundamentally with like sectors and what people are interested in. Like the things that are outperforming the most on the bottom are virtual and AI16Z, right? You're still seeing Bitcoin outperform most things. You're not really seeing like some broad DeFi rotation. Old memes are still not really doing much. It seems like that's kind of a sector that people aren't interested anymore. So from my perspective, it's just it's same old. It was just we had this wipeout, and some of it was macro related, and then other like the other stuff was, we talked about this last time. A lot of these charts were kind of nutty over the past few weeks, and people, things that go up a lot have to come down by a decent chunk too. It's just like these are the way things go. So yeah, I don't really think there's been any material changes from my opinion, from my point of view. And like now, Trump's coming in Monday. So
yeah, I generally agree. I mean, we had that like pretty big liquidation. What was it? I guess on Monday this week, where we kind of tested like 89 or something like that. And a lot of that was like positioning. You kind of had like the news last week of like the DOJ trying to sell $6 billion of their
Which
seized
was like
Bitcoin.
fake or regurgitated or like.
Yeah, still not exactly sure what was going on with that, but right, like the closer you get to the inauguration without anything like materializing from that, obviously is probably bullish, right? Because if it was real and they were planning on selling, but they don't sell by the time Trump comes into office, they're most likely not going to sell. So that's, uncertainty removed from the market. Right. Like kind of what Cedar said, like, I don't think anything's really changed. I think most of what you've seen from the start of the year to now has just been kind of like really jittery positioning, people trying to, like, I don't know, either front run the inauguration, front run news, getting wiped out because of the, heightened volatility. You've had like volatility in TradFi too, with like the S&P too. So it's not just crypto. It's been a pretty volatile couple of weeks. I don't think anything's really changed. And I think with, the macro prints coming in today, like, better than expected, I think it kind of increases, more near term targets. I am it's kind of, I guess it's like kind of counterintuitive. Like the more you run up into like an event, like the more likely the event becomes like a more like a sell the news in the short term, right? So like in terms of like the inauguration on Monday, like if Bitcoin keeps running up from now until then, like I would be kind of worried that like it materializes in some kind of like immediate term de-risking, kind of like what you saw with the ETFs. We ran up into the ETF approval. A couple days later, we sold off, and then we resumed, up only back up to like 60, 70K. So like if we continue running up in the next couple of days, like I'll probably be more worried about an immediate term sell off on the inauguration versus if we kind of just like putz around and maybe like do a little bit of consolidating beforehand. But then again, right, like Trump could come in and just like start off with a ton of executive orders like he did in 2016, some of those aimed at crypto, which will move the market. Like market's not that liquid compared to everything else. And if he was able to move TradFi markets last time around, he'll be he'll move these markets much more
Yeah,
easily. So.
people like are asking me my outlook, and I'm just like sending them the photo of Donald Trump Jr. with Sailor, and like the fact that like Barron Trump's like into crypto, like all of his kids and his like entourage is into crypto, and it just feels like, I don't know. I saw this thing on Twitter. It could totally be not true, but kind of seems to check out if all of his children are in crypto, where like Trump looks at the Bitcoin price and he kind of sees it as like the stock market for young people. Yeah, again, I don't know if that's true or not. I think it's a pretty believable story given all of like his kids and like young people he's very close to are into crypto, and the ability for him to move, the stock market versus crypto, it's a lot easier, like Jason said, for him to move crypto. And if he like uses that as like a scoreboard for like young people, talks about being the first crypto president or Bitcoin president, I think that there's like a lot of levers he could pull to help crypto out. But obviously we've had like a massive run up after the election, and we're just digesting it here. And I think, yeah, really the magnitude of the move we'll have is kind of dependent on the like what Trump actually does with crypto, and then also the levers like he has, like people he's appointed pull within like the bigger macro market, like Scott Benson, what he does as Treasury Secretary and stuff.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same page. It felt like a pretty good kind of buying opportunity having this dump before Trump Trump gets elected. I think it's like pretty easy to just take a left curve take on Trump being elected. There's a lot of easy wins he can have with crypto. There's literally a crypto bull happening in Washington. Like this thing went from the industry that no one wanted to touch, that was just like overwhelmingly hated. Now there's a crypto bull. There's going to be like a crypto advisory council. We have a crypto and AI czar. Just don't overthink it. I think it feels like Trump is definitely bullish crypto. I mean, obviously the bear case is that he doesn't deliver anything, which would be not unheard of for a politician to make promises that they don't keep. It's sort of the playbook. And Trump in particular, it doesn't seem like the most trustworthy guy. But I just think it aligns with his interests to do so most likely. So I'm pretty bullish. And I actually bought a bunch of the AI framework coins that I missed on this dump, just because. Yeah, I don't know. My take on it remains the same. Like, I think there's a lot of vapor with the AI agentic framework things, but I just think AI itself is going to be the biggest narrative of 2025. Like, my overall take is just that we're going to get AGI in 2025. Like, the capex numbers by the hyperscalers are just absurd. Like, Microsoft on their own are going to spend 80 billion. Pretty much all the other hyperscalers are spending every single dollar of free cash flow on capex to build out compute to train AIs. You have like inference time compute now, and I just think the progress in 2025 is actually going to accelerate from 2024. We're going to get AGI. And
What
right
does
now there's just
AGI
like
mean?
so AGI to me means like matches or exceeds human level capability across a variety of fields, and probably also has like some agentic capabilities, which means they can take actions on your behalf. But like basically like a PhD level intelligence across like every field. That can act as a research assistant, like an investment analyst, like this kind of thing. And to me, it's like right now, there's a small number of people in Silicon Valley and tech circles and the terminally online who understand what AI is going to do and what it means for the world, how big it is. And I think over the next few years, the rest of the world is going to realize that. And I really think it's going to be the biggest bubble in financial like history, just because like it has the strongest fundamentals, right? Out of it, and it's easiest to tell big stories around the things with the strongest fundamentals, right? You've never had a technology with I think this strong fundamentals this early on, like the revenue that OpenAI is generating, and I think the revenue that the coding assistants in particular are going to generate. And so I just think like even with strong fundamentals, humans can always obviously like will always get overexcited about things. There will always be cycles, and I just think AI is in at the beginning of like I think that big AI bubble is sort of yet to come. And to me, it's like inevitable that just even if you assume that crypto AI has no fundamentals whatsoever, which I don't think is the case. Like we've made the case for the fundamentals of them. We've published research about it. Don't need to go over that. But even if you think it has no fundamentals, I just think the flows on their own, like how do you play this AI narrative? Like the Mag 7 are really overpriced. You can't like gamble. Well, they're not overpriced, but they're actually pretty cheap compared to telcos in 2000. But you can't really gamble your way out of the underclass by buying big tech, right? And then stock picking is really hard. People think it's kind of a rigged game. VC is not available to 99.9% of the population. So what's left? Punting on crypto AI coins. And I just think the sector, like the agentic sector is at 10 bill, the crypto AI as a whole is at 50 bill. And I just think it's going to, as we said in the predictions episode, it's just going to keep going up. And you want to own just a basket of the fastest horses, I think.
I mean, this has been my thesis on it from the beginning.
Yeah.
Is I didn't have a good thesis on it, but it just seemed pretty obvious that it was going to get a lot bigger. And it's kind of like, like ape first, research second. It's kind of like get exposure to whatever seems hot, and then when something real comes, make sure you like identify that within the sector. But you're kind of just like betting on the sector to grow. At the same time, what you saw over the past like week before today is a good what's the word I'm looking for? Like a good thing to keep in mind that, I think a lot of people have this thesis that they're not really sure how these things are going to keep value. And so when you see sell offs, especially when they run up a lot, like they are pretty vicious. And so I imagine throughout this year, like, I'm definitely not diamond handing AI coins like all year. I think you're going to get some pretty vicious wipes like you've seen. There's been some pretty nasty rotations on chain. Like I've seen people talking about this one framework 2 days ago when the other coins were down a bunch, and now those ones are all up a lot, and this one's down 50% in like 2 days, right? And so it's definitely yeah, I don't know. It's again, I agree. I think it's going to get a lot bigger. I still think it's kind of, it seems like the leaders now are, Virtual and AI16Z, but I don't think that they have some insane like stronghold on it. It seems like it can be challenged pretty easily to me. And it's like the Tau thing, right? It's like, why aren't people buying Tau? And it's like Tau was the only game in town for a while. And now there's a lot of things that actually people are using and were valued less and don't have the crazy emissions, right? And so I think the same thing goes for like virtual AI 16Z, all the other ones. That I don't think they have some insurmountable moat or something. And so it's yeah, you just got to be like paying attention all the time.
What do you think the moat currently is for things like AI 16Z or virtuals? Because obviously, like, they are the current leader right now. Like, it's kind of undisputed, at least from where we stand today. So, like, what is that? Is it just that, you know, AI 16Z, GitHub, everybody's using it, like virtual based proxy? Like,
I think virtuals is probably a strong. I think like virtuals is safer of the two. Virtuals has like it actually has built-in value accrual. Like today, they announced over the next 30 days they're swapping like 40 mil at like current prices of the agent tokens. They have this, you know, I don't think the pairing with virtual is like that big of a value sink, but the fact that like you need to pay in virtual to launch these agents and everything is good. AI16Z is totally. It's just like pure. You're just kind of betting on the fact that ELIZA is a very used framework and that there'll be a way to like monetize that. It's definitely AI16Z is definitely overall just like more of like a shizo. um, it's like the cathedral and the bazaar, right? And so cathedral is virtual and bazaar is AI16Z, and that also kind of just goes with like base or like Ethereum versus Solana too, right? Solana is definitely more like bazaar type. It's a bit more all over the place. So yeah, I don't know. At the end of the day, too, it's like these agents. This is the first narrative too that you've kind of seen people not really care about what chain it's on. I mean, obviously, there's always going to be people that care about that, but you're seeing more and more people like not care too much because at the end of the day, what are you really putting on chain with these agents? It's like for AI16Z, it's just their fund or whatever. For virtual, it's like the liquidity pools and stuff. But you know, a lot of the code is like off chain, and there's no like these agents can do things on different chains. So it's mostly just like where you're trading the tokens and everything, right? So
I think it's just attention, basically, is the main moat, right? Like, because your ability, like the launch pad is really the thing that captures value here, and your ability to charge value as a launch pad is based on how many users and eyeballs you can bring to the token, right? And whether that's more than what you're charging. That's the reason Binance can charge projects 3 to 10% of their supply to do launch pools, right? And Virtuals is proving that they're able to do that, and I think that's really the only moat, and that's going to be very, very, I think, fickle. So I agree with you, Setters. There's going to be brutal rotations. Not sure I'll catch them. I'm hoping that there will be time to sort of see different things coming, different platforms emerge, and be able to kind of de-risk. Because yeah, like the TAOs, I think is a really good example, and I think the current leaders will get TAO'd. Like there's right now they're the way to bet on this narrative, and there's gonna like better ways are gonna emerge, and also new narratives within AI are gonna emerge. And so once you see that happen, I think it's wise to kind of keep reallocating. So it's definitely like a trade here rather than something I think you can safely hold for the long term. At least for me, I haven't seen any of the teams for various different reasons that I'm like really confident backing for the long term.
yeah, like I think you can say, "Oh, I want to own the picks and shovels," but you can't be certain that these picks and shovels are still the picks and shovels, and
Yeah.
like by the end of the year, right?
Yeah, the like pump fund has had like is pretty dominant on that side of the launch pads. Like, why you don't think virtuals can keep that up for a while? Or
Well, from what I understand, their actual frameworks aren't really that good, um, and so it's more so the ease of launching them that has been the reason a lot of people have used it. But a lot like the 1000X guys, they launched a agent
yeah,
and they launched it through virtuals, but they switched to ELIZA framework recently. So it's still a virtuals agent, right? And it's still like paired with virtual and it's still on base and
yeah,
everything. But the actual framework, the actual tech they're using is ELIZA,
The worst
right?
thing you can do with this stuff is go use the products.
Yeah.
I think. And I think like you saw that with 1000X. Like there was super bullish virtuals, and then they like used the product, they switched to AI16Z, and like on the last pod they sounded way less bullish virtuals. And I think that's a mistake a lot of people are going to make in this market, which sounds ridiculous, but unfortunately or fortunately, it's sort of true. And like the other thing with virtuals and the AI coins is I kind of tweeted this today, but I was like bearish and just for the reasons that we've discussed on the pod. And then I spoke to a bunch of other people, smart people, and I saw a lot of others were bearish too. And that's when I realized I was on the middle of the bell curve, and there was a lot of people still left to buy this thing because at some point on Twitter it looked like this was all people were talking about, and everyone had bought. But actually, when I spoke to people, I realized there was actually a lot of sidelined kind of bears, people who didn't really believe in the narrative, and that also gave me some more conviction to sort of to ape.
The narrative's definitely there. It's just like there's definitely money, like you said, going to be chasing this stuff. It's just like right now, these are the only like credible things to buy that like perceived as credible things to buy. So it's kind of like all the money's flowing into them. Versus if there's more credible things that launch in the future that like actually have more of a long-term business or are better, more of a moat, I think like those will probably do really well.
Yeah. We had a podcast like, I don't know, 2-3 months ago or something. We were talking about meme coins, if they're good, bad, whatever. My thing then was like, I think this meme coin capital is waiting for something to buy. And it's not like it always wants to trade meme coins. And it's kind of just playing this hot potato game until something comes. It does seem like the AI stuff is this. And I'm curious Jason's take on like the OG memes, because it's like objectively they have been quite like weak. And I also don't really see people. I see Murad on Twitter still, talking about believing and stuff, but I don't see a ton of people talking about the like OG memes anymore, right? And maybe, I don't know, maybe this is like a temporary thing, but it does seem like a lot of attention has shifted from those.
Yeah, real quick before I give you my thoughts on that. I know we kind of had a little discussion in some of our Delphi chats yesterday or the day before around Larry's tweet, and I kind of wanted to get your guys' take on it because you guys are more in the weeds with this stuff. And he pretty much said, I'm going to read it right here. It said, the crypto AI agent frameworks have little to no technical merit. Any big tech company can recreate the same functionalities in no more than a few weeks. Versal AI, for one, is strictly better tech. AI 16 doesn't even break into the top 10 in GitHub starts, yet valued at over 1 billion. So kind of curious, like, do you guys like agree with that? Do you think it's like directionally right, but it doesn't really matter because there's no way for anybody to get exposure to this stuff outside of, like Jose said, Mag 7 or these types of crypto related projects?
Yeah, I think it's like kind of what I just said. It's like
Yeah.
these are the only things to buy that seem credible, and like so much money because this is such a big narrative wants to chase this. Um and especially like so
Yeah.
much money relative to how big these things are and the liquidity on them.
Yeah, that's basically my take too. And for what it's worth, we're currently doing, and again, I'm not a dev, but we are currently doing a deep dive into all the platforms. Us in research, so labs and research, and we have some devs looking at it. So looking to get a lot more conviction on this kind of over the next few weeks as we dive deeper and figure out like what the actual technical trade offs are between some of these platforms. Um, Larry's probably right. Um, Although it's not saying much that like a big tech company can recreate it in a few weeks, right? Like that's sort of a pretty high bar. But yeah, I kind of agree with Duncan. And then on memes, I sort of share the same. My opinion at the time was that AI is just a bigger meme than all of than a dog with a hat, right? And it's easier to tell big stories and get people excited about memes that have at least some possibility of fundamentals. And I kind of still think that, and I do think um, you're going to see just like a shift, not just from memes, but from most kind of sectors in crypto towards. I think most flows will go into AI in 2025, but I think memes more so just because it's sort of more direct. I don't know. I think people were like, I just think AI agent memes are sort of superior to traditional memes, and I think the memes you can tell around this are much bigger. But I'm very curious to hear your take, Jason.
Yeah, so I think probably generally agree. Like, I think it's like not necessarily like maybe a function of them being better memes. It's just like I just think the market got tired of, like, to Cedrus's point, just kind of got tired of aping memes for a year, right? Like over a year almost. There's only like so much fun you can have buying Flog or Dog with Hat or Bonk or whatever, right? Like, it's like great to make money. Everybody loves doing that. It's fun, yeah. But like at the end of the day, most people, like, I generally think, want to buy something that at least has like a tangible value or at least a path to it.
What?
No, I do. Like, just because I think that doesn't mean I'm going to buy those things when the market is obviously telling you that's not what people care about at the time. Like, you can hold these two beliefs at the same time, right? They're not mutually exclusive. And I think that's generally what makes a decent tactical trader, is like, it doesn't really matter what I believe or want to be true. What matters is what the market is telling you, right? And so for like most of 2024, the market was telling you, like, for whatever reason, you could ascribe any reason to it, that it preferred memes, whether or not that's because you didn't have new people coming in. Is that because people are front running what they saw in previous cycles? Is that because the regulatory environment sucked? Like, whatever it is, whatever the actual reason is, nobody will ever like fully know. It's just like the market was telling you this is the sector it liked. And since November, or I guess mid-November roughly, with like GOAT, the market has clearly been telling you it likes AI. And I kind of agree with Jose. Like, back then I was talking, I'm like, GOAT is not an agent. Like, Truth Terminal is an agent, but GOAT the coin is a meme, right? Like, I was getting it not into arguments, but I was getting into these long like back and forths in our Delphi chats. I'm like, it's nothing other than a meme. And I do hold that belief for most of these things still. Like, most of them are still just memes with more complex stories, I guess, like Jose said, that you could tell. Does that mean OG memes are dead forever? No, I don't think so, right? Like, I think a bunch of OG memes are probably going to do generally well.
What do
I
you mean?
think
Oh, do you mean like the memes that were
like
coming
regular
in
memes,
March? I
like
think
regular
are
memes.
kind of cooked.
No,
even
not
though
like, I think most memes, and I think most of these agents too are going to be cooked, right? Like, in the
Someone
same
needs to tell the Coinbase listing team that memes are
way.
kind of dead at this point.
Uh,
Yeah. Everything you're saying makes sense to me. I think, honest, yeah, a big part of it is just it's a new game. People like
yeah,
having
it's a
new
new game,
games.
right? That's a good way of putting it.
yeah.
But just like, look at like a Doge chart, for example. Like, Doge doesn't look topped to me.
Well, Doge, I feel like is a bit of an exception to
I think it's
the
a good
rule.
benchmark for general memes.
I know, but like
Doge
the
has
met
fundamental drivers, sir.
the meta has like
No, the meta's definitely shifted.
has shifted, and
The easy money is in agents and AI for sure. But I don't like. Does that mean I would be buying Bonk above 2 billion or Whiff above? No, probably not. But does that mean all memes are done? No, I don't think they're going to be like, kind of what I wrote about in the year ahead. Like, I just don't think they're going to be the only sector that's like worth putting your money in this year. I think there's going to be others, and by definition, that's bearish relative for memes, right? Because they were the only thing that people really were aping last year, and now, for whatever reason, Trump's coming in, so you could buy fundamental coins because now a bunch of people are going to be more okay with investing in crypto. So I could maybe look at DeFi coins or things like Athena, or, now that we have a crypto and AI czar in the White House, like, maybe I just buy all the AI coins because there's going to be some bullish catalyst there, right? Like,
yeah, well,
yeah,
I think that, over a long enough period of time, anything that doesn't have an actual business, like outside of a few things that have like reached escape velocity and like mindshare velocity, like Bitcoin or Doge,
or
right?
Ripple.
Like, yeah, but like they're trying to do something, right? But like for the vast majority of things, if you don't have a business behind them, they are probably going to trend towards zero over time, and especially with the rate of which new launches are happening. That being said, I have lost a bet to Jason on Whiff, even though it's at $1.70 right now. So I got we basically had made a bet when it was like $2 or something
It's
that
like
it
$2,
would
yeah.
go above $3.40, and after the week after the election I got crushed. So I said I would wear this. This is a good time. I would wear this on the podcast. So I'll put it on right now.
You look good.
Yeah, you look cute.
You look really good, dude.
Jason, are you happy? Duncan,
Yeah.
your hat.
Wasn't there a full dog suit that was discussed at some point? Like a full
There
dog
was. I
suit?
couldn't find one. Like
He
a
just
good
ordered me
Okay.
the hat.
so I just
But
got
it's at $1.70 now, which is like, to me,
Yeah.
all this stuff
Yeah,
is
you
just gonna
lost
get
the bet.
crushed.
I do
I
no.
know I
So
lost that. That's why I have the hat on.
I do believe. So I do agree with your point about in the long run stuff without like an actual fundamental case isn't really going to last. I think with infra, we are fully entering this era with infra that if there is not a long term revenue story, like people are not going to buy the token. I really do believe that like L1s and infra tokens are starting to get valued by the actual economics that they generate, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that, you look at Blockworks put out some of these charts yesterday. Out of all the applications in crypto, over 50% of revenue now is driven by Solana applications. From an REV perspective, like economics to a specific chain, Solana is like 40-50% or something like that. If like by the end of the year, Solana is like 80% in both of these metrics, it's very hard for me to believe that, these softer, intangible, non-quantifiable metrics, like I'm starting to actually believe in Sol potentially flipping ETH, whereas I never really believed in that before. I thought Sol was definitely very undervalued versus ETH, but I do believe that it could happen because if it gets to the point where it's like 80% of revenues are coming from Solana, it's like, so you're
Sorry,
just
what are
telling
the
me that
metrics?
these
What are the two metrics?
like revenue that applications generate, which isn't that's not like to one, but it's like chain GDP. People are kind of
Yeah.
terming it. The other one's REV, which is the most objective measure of like economic value that a chain is generating, right? So like if Solana is doing 80% of the industries, if 80% of the like revenue being generated in the industry is on Solana, it's very hard for me to see like why would it not actually flip at that point, because then you're just going off of these softer, well, Ethereum has more developers, or Ethereum is more decentralized, or Ethereum has all these roll-ups, but none of these things are direct hard metrics that actually specifically are linked to the token, right? Like the only thing linked to the token is the fee, like the economics that it generates, right? Everything else is like a softer metric. And so I am very curious if like these metrics keep going, they're just going in one direction. It's very hard to see, like things can definitely change on a dime. It happens a lot in this industry. And it could definitely happen with Solana. Maybe like their scaling hits a bottleneck, or maybe Fire Dancer is a big disappointment or something like that. But if they do continue on this track, I don't know. There's like a real discussion that ends up happening when it's
Yeah.
doing so much more revenue than everything else.
I think what you're saying makes total sense, and we saw like a bubble in infra tokens like high FTV, low float in memes. Now maybe it's going to be in the current AI meta. Obviously, AI as a whole is not like it could be really big, but like the current tokens that are going crazy right now, it just like over time the market is going to return to like some sort of equilibrium, and like these fundamental coins are going to have buyers at a certain floor price if they're generating revenue versus like these meme coins or these like insanely overvalued infra tokens. Like, it's very hard to put a floor on them because they make like no money, and you have to use these more like subjective metrics versus the market can like rally around more objective like data for these other things. So I completely agree with you, and I think it's like a good sign of a maturing market that these like infra tokens that were insanely overvalued, or these high FTV low flow tokens, or these meme coins are, you know, losing steam, and then people are focusing on things that actually, you know, have more real businesses attached to them and make
Yeah,
fundamental sense.
I do think though, like first of all, I think there's a lot of flaws with the metrics, like revenue generated by apps. Um, like I looked into it, it looks like it's just mainly accounting for dexes and like on-chain money markets and stuff. Um, and like, or is do you know if Pump Fund, for instance, is
It's
accounted
included,
for
yeah.
in
Yeah.
that?
Pump's
Okay, and is
included,
it
yeah.
Athena included on the
Yeah,
Ethereum
yeah.
side?
Yeah.
So and what they're taking like what's where are you getting the stat from actually?
Blockworks has a dashboard.
Okay. Yeah, I need to look into that. See
they
what's
have
included
good
on.
data. Ethereum they have at 17.9%. Solana's 56.8. Base is 8.7. BNB 4. Arbitrum 1%. But it's just like you see the Solana, like the
Growth.
percent, it just keeps going big. It just keeps growing more and more. And the same thing's happening with REV with Solana. It's like it's
REV is
hard.
a little though, like because you know, first of all, it doesn't all accrue to Solana, right? Like part is accruing to
No,
Jito.
REV, no, that goes to Solana.
Does
Jito,
it? I thought.
Jito takes a small sliver off to like their own, but that's not included in REV. All of that is directly attributable to like stakers,
Setters what?
Okay.
validators.
But then there's also like the fact that you know as Solana MEV actually gets fixed, you have something like PBS or whatever. Won't this REV go down quite a lot?
Um, well, if you do like app specific sequencing, then yeah, theoretically, like this will go down because more will go to the applications versus Solana, right? I think I think app specific sequencing is this new meme that like crypto researchers love this thing. And I think it's kind of oversold in the sense that people believe that apps will just take 100% of the economics that they generate on the chain. But to me, it's pretty clear that it's not that like there is a synergistic relationship between the application and the L1 and the validators, and there's some sort of like bargaining here. And right now, yes, the L1 takes all 100% of it. That's not going to last. But even if the L1 takes like 30% of that and the app takes 70% of that in the long run, and then you just get way more applications anyways because you keep scaling the chain, the math still works out that it's like very beneficial for the L1, right? So I do believe that in the long run, apps I do like app specific sequencing more than app chains, because you do keep it on the same shared state. But there's still a lot of trade offs with app specific this fucking term. There's still a lot of trade offs. Like you are inventing. It's like, you know, every time you invent one of these new kind of like um, mechanisms, it's another like centralizing force in a sense too, right? And so, yeah, I do think that like Unichain is the first one that is doing pure app sequencing from like day one. So that's I'm very interested to see like how Unichain does because you know as we talked about before, the main reason people always say to make app chains is to like capture all your own economics, right? And it's also like when you look at the GDP chart, you know, all the most profitable apps are on Ethereum, and people will look at that and say, yeah, they should make their own app chain. It's like, what? Like you're literally going against what the fundamentals are telling you. Like the most profitable apps are on Solana. Like why would they leave? Like because they can capture more MEV. You're not thinking about the trade-offs of doing that. And like if Pump went and made like Pump works well just because it's on Solana. Like yes, maybe in like a hypothetical perfect world in the long run, it'll be better as its own chain or something. But it's just like, yeah,
Yeah, like you're tapping into that pool of capital on the shared state, and just like I do think that's probably a big part of it.
it's like what this is all about, right? It's like the shared state, like who is
I
the
don't know
most
how much the
valuable
shared state
state.
matters. I think, yeah, I don't know. I just don't think you see that mattering that much. I think Solana mainly is just a great product. Like it's fast, it works well. Like I'm definitely bullish So, but I do think L2s are like L2s had a great year. When you look at L2s as the aggregate, it's just that there's no token to ape and it doesn't benefit ETH,
Well,
right?
Base had
But
a great year.
as a product, yeah, but you had a bunch. I mean, TVL across L2s like doubled. I think it started off at something like 22, and it's at
Okay,
45 billion.
Base puts customer deposits on Base. That's the majority of their TVL.
I don't think
So
is that
like
where'd you get that from?
they put customer deposits on Base. That's where they do the accounting. So like, how is that like a real fundamental driver? That's just a centralized exchange doing their accounting on their own proprietary blockchain. It's like,
Well,
and then Hyperliquid is a big reason for, I guess, if Hyperliquid is like couple bill, it's not crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
And you had a bunch of L2 announcements, right? Like it's just proving to have product market fit with builders who have ambitious builders who have successful products and want to build an ecosystem, whether it's like Pengu or like Athena Network. Like there's a bunch of, I think, examples. I think people are going this route more and more.
yeah,
And we'll
none of
continue
those are
to, I
live though.
suspect.
Wait, I have a question for setters. If there's like a wallet that has really good chain abstraction UX, do you think that this stuff matters less? Like,
That's my argument, basically. Yeah, I do think it's mainly UX rather than actual shared state.
You can never, I mean, you can never do chain abstraction. It'll never be the same as if everything was on one state machine because there's inherent latency between using different. So it would be nice to like, yeah, do everything. For instance, like the Lighthouse app, portfolio tracker, that's like chain abstraction in a sense. You don't do anything with it, but it consolidates all your stuff across all these different chains, right? That's like very nice. And so it's very nice to, yeah, if you could use all your different chains from one thing,
front end.
from one front end, yes. But if you're ever going to go between state machines, you're always going to have degraded performance, right?
Because that definitely feels like the end game is like for at least like consumer crypto, like monetizing.
Yeah,
front end.
I do think though chain abstraction is more of a problem than a solution. Like I think that it is become because of bad design choices that have led the industry to this path, basically, by like not creating performance scalable blockchain systems.
But I
And
don't think so.
so,
It just even if you had a performant scalable blockchain system, that's never going to be able to house everything, right? Like you're going to have some amount of sharding that needs to happen. Like even on Solana, this is happening. So
yeah.
you do need like I don't think it's. I mean, Ethereum clearly made some bad design decisions, but I think you would end up here regardless. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm bullish Solana and I'm bullish L2s, and I think in 2025 we're gonna have like at least one big financial institution announce they're doing their own L2, and I think it's gonna be the preferred path for most like successful builders who want to build an ecosystem, and for like institutions going on chain.
Why is like so why is
Even what
like
happened today
BlackRock
with
making
Sonium is a good
okay,
example.
why is like okay, let's say BlackRock makes an L2, like why is that interesting to you?
I mean, they could put like a bunch of tokenized securities on there, right? A bunch of their like they could do a bunch of stuff that they
Okay.
couldn't do anywhere else
But
on
it's
there.
basically just this like private blockchain narrative coming back. It's
Yeah,
like
but there's gonna be clearly it's gonna be like transfer restrictions on tokens and all of that. But there's gonna be a lot like if securities are to go on chain, that's how they're gonna be put on chain. Like you can't have securities trade permissionlessly on chain. And I think NL2 is like a really good solution to do that and a bunch of other stuff. So I just think both are gonna grow. And I think L2's had a good year. I need to go look at the base stuff to see how much of TVL growth came from base.
I know the Arbitrum guy was going off on Twitter on this for a while because he was
Okay.
really pissed at like how disingenuous it was, saying that they were like the leaders in TVL because they were just putting customer deposits on it.
All right, so
Yeah.
I guess like what's the takeaway for people from this? Like
I don't know.
some
How
Buy
did we get
sell.
into? How did we get into
Buy
this?
sell.
I'm bullish on the. I think that I think it's clear. Like performance chains is what everybody realizes now. Is you want something with like low latency, high throughput, and that's it. And so, all these new chains coming out are basically like this. I think the last Gen L2s are going to really struggle. That is my biggest takeaway. There's a lot of them that do. I wrote about this in the End for Year Head. There's only 3 L2s that do more TPS than Ethereum. Like, think about that.
Yeah.
That's kind of insane. Ethereum is very limited in its throughput. It does like 12 TPS. And that's just telling you that it's not a technical reason why they're lower. It's a demand reason, right? And you just see these economies of scale where the winners just keep
Wait,
winning.
what? What do you mean by that? I mean, the demand is the reason why they're not doing more TPS, right? Like they can do more TPS. They
They
just aren't because
can.
there
They
aren't.
just aren't
Yeah.
because there's no demand for them. And like
Mhm.
you're gonna see, I think Mega ETH will probably do pretty well when it comes out. And where's a lot of that capital going to come from? It's probably going to come from a lot of the existing L2s, right? There's not a lot of ETH that John Sharp wrote about this recently too. Like there's not even a lot of ETH that's actually bridged to L2s yet.
Yeah.
It's like
I think that's the
2.5%.
yeah.
Okay,
It's super interesting.
So Ceteris is bullish Sol ETH. Jose, what are you bullish Sol ETH? Or you're like, how are you? Like, I understand your opinion's nuanced, but like, is there really a way to express that in the market or not really?
Not really. I mean, Initio is probably the cleanest way to express it, but it's not available to people.
I'm also just bullish on like apps, people like the AI agent stuff. This is like it is infra, but it's also not. It's like when I said earlier about people not caring about if stuff is on like base or Sol. That's kind of what this is, and I'm excited for stuff like that. I am excited to not care about the tribes as much, right? The weird thing for me has always been like a lot of people didn't think Solana was going to do well because they thought like tech didn't matter, which was always like a really weird point of view to me. And I think that like the tech clearly matters now, and you're seeing the entire industry going to these making performance systems. So I think like my main takeaway is like we have no excuses not to create like good apps, right? So let's see. I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah,
I like that last line in the Infra Year Ahead report.
Yeah.
I could tell that Ceteris wrote that. He's like, the Infra's built. Let's build some kick-ass shit or something like that. I think switching topics to the Bitcoin dominance stuff, just some market things. Like what's everyone's take going into 2025? Regulatory environment easing up. Is there going to be more of an alt run, or are we still like this? Bitcoin dominance has been a relentless march up since if anyone wants to pull it up for themselves, they can just look up btc.d on TradingView, or CoinGecko has a tab for it. But it's been a relentless march up since like 2022. It was at 40% in 2022. It peaked at 61% a couple weeks after the election. Right now we're at 58%. And we had a little bit of an alt season between November and the start of December. But it's kind of like what we saw in March. Like, is that going to be the new regime where Bitcoin puts in kind of a temporary top? In March, it was at like 72K. Then it just chops around between 70 and 60 while alts kind of all bleed out. Or do we think this is like a more powerful cycle that's going to bring in new capital and have alts actually outperform?
Yeah, I don't really know. I think BTC Dom could like stay the same, and you still see alts like way outperform just
because you're seeing the smaller stuff do well, right?
Yeah, and like if BTC does what we all kind of predicted it would do this year and in the end of year, then alts will like absolutely rip. Just even if BTC dominance goes up, right? So I don't know if it matters as much, honestly, going forward. But I do think
like, so you think it's like what's going to be different from March? Like when BTC puts in its top, like in 21 and 22, like we kind of saw alts go really nuts there, right? Versus in March, we saw BTC put in its top, and then most alts just get crushed as BTC consolidated. But that's typically when like alt season happens. So
I don't think we have an alt season again. I think that concept is like over. I just think you have like massive dispersion of performance on stuff that has like strong fundamentals and narratives, and stuff that doesn't.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good take. I don't know how long ago this was, but it was on some podcast or something we recorded probably like 5-6 months ago. We were all like kind of going around just giving our predictions for what BTC dominance's top would be, which is really just like pretty much ETH BTC, right? Like it's mostly that.
Well,
When
it's
you-
becoming less of it, like, XRP's up there being be sold.
Yeah,
Like, it's
sure.
obviously
It's
ETH's a
mainly
massive part of it, but
Bitcoin versus like 3 other coins, right? Like you could have the whole AI sector 10x and start making a small dent in BTC Dom, right? So it's mainly just like the way I think about it is like, what's your outlook on that kind of ratio, right? And when I think about it from that perspective, like I do think Bitcoin probably outperforms ETH this year, especially if you get some kind of like actual executive orders around, SBR, things like that.
Which is a very bold prediction
Yeah,
considering what has happened. It's
I mean, I predicted that last year too, right? And like it did, and I don't think it'll be as wide of an outperformance. I do think ETH will do much better this year, by virtue of like the regulatory environment, crypto friendly president, et cetera, right? You're already seeing that with ETF flows. But I think, I don't know, I initially thought it would top around like 66 to 68%, and this was like 6 months ago. I'm not sure we get that high, because I think the outperformance or whatever will be significantly less than it was this past cycle or this past year. But I'm not sure the top is necessarily in. Like I could see BTC Dom going back up to like 62-ish, 63 before rolling over. Like if it goes to like 125, 150, like I could see that happening, and BTC Dom making a move like that. But I kind of agree with Jose. Like I don't think it's going to be like that like chart that's been going around for like 6 years now, where it's like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, like alt season, whatever. Like I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's mostly what we saw last year, right? Like except you're going to have more than just one sector doing well, which was memes. You're going to have a couple, because risk appetite is higher,
and
across the board.
And just for context, so BTC Dominance peaked in like January 2021, 73%, and it got all the way down to 40%, versus like the biggest run we've had in the past few years is this run that just happened from November to December, which was 61% down to 55%. So it's like the magnitude of the run was like literally nearly 10x the size, 8x, 10x the size in 2021, which is when we saw like all the alt L1s just going absolutely bananas. So it's kind of crazy, like the difference in the magnitude of the move that we've experienced.
Yeah. I also think Bitcoin L2s could be a dark horse this year, honestly. Like you've never seen Bitcoin, and I think that could like do a lot of damage to ETH if it takes off. Like you've never really seen Bitcoiners do anything with their Bitcoin. I think WBTC peak was like 0.6% of Bitcoin supply was like what they got, and you had pretty attractive, and that's arguably like the most trustworthy multi-sig in crypto with BitGo and stuff. At least it was at the time. I think all these current L2s that are pretty much multi-sigs haven't gotten that much adoption, but I do think in 2025 we might see some actual like stage 2 ZKL2s launching on Bitcoin, whether it's like Citria, which is a portfolio company, or like Alpen Labs, and I know there's a few others working on it too. And I think the effect of that could be huge because Bitcoiners really do seem to care about security. And like the TAM for this is massive. Yeah, John Charb has a good post on this, but like obviously Bitcoin's like 5 times bigger than ETH, so TAM is 5 times bigger there. But like Bitcoin L2s don't just enable scalability like the ETH L2s do. They also enable programmability, right? Like on ETH L1, you can still do stuff. You still have smart contracts. You can't do anything on Bitcoin L1. So like a Bitcoin L2 is such a bigger unlock because not only do you get much greater relative gain in scalability, you also gain like programmability. And so I think even if you had like 1 or 2% of Bitcoin go on chain and start doing things, like that is a massive, that would like flip in ETH L2 TVL by like a few multiples. And so I don't know, I think that's a pretty interesting thing to watch.
The first, so I think it was from Gort like 6 months ago or something. He was the first one I heard make the point about how like Bitcoin rollups are actual just extensions of Bitcoin because of this point. Like you do have the programmability and everything. And so they are very different. It is a very different like construction that Ethereum rollups, who just essentially do the exact same thing as Ethereum, right?
Just faster.
Yeah, and
Cheaper.
so it is. Yeah, I am excited to see how Bitcoin rollups do. I've never believed in the people would always say Bitcoiners don't want to use DeFi. Bitcoiners don't want to do anything with their Bitcoin, and like that's always been kind of nonsensical to me. Like, sure, there's some loud people on Twitter who would like never do that, but this is a $2+ trillion asset. There's a lot of people that want to, even just getting loans, like just have be able to get a loan against your BTC on chain, like without doing any wrapping, Can
I ask you a question? So my current understanding is you still need a trusted bridge right now if you want to do this. But if OPCAT goes through, then you can do a trustless bridge with some of these L2s.
You use like validity proofs and stuff. So like ZK.
So you still need a change to Bitcoin to make it fully trustless.
There's some other stuff that's like not using OPCAT, which off the top of my head, don't remember exactly. It's like some separate off-chain process, I think, but
yeah, but the OPCAT's been in like Bitcoin testnet for like a year or something. So some people are saying like it could come in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, so it was in the protocol, I think, at the beginning, right? And then it got taken out because there's some like catastrophic bug that it enabled. But now it's not a concern anymore. So now there's all this energy to kind of bring it back. I think Starknet is a big dark horse for Bitcoin L2s. Like obviously there's all these new ones coming out, but Starknet is doing a lot with the OPCAT and does it pretty easy. Once that goes through, they can just start posting proofs to Bitcoin. So yeah, there's definitely tons of energy in this sector, which is cool to see, and it's like only beneficial for Bitcoin. There's like no, even if people don't use Bitcoin DA and they're just posting proofs to Bitcoin, because using Bitcoin DA, they're going to be pretty shitty rollups. But yeah.
So when do you think we'll actually see it? Like, is there the tools right now to see it now, or no? The bridges are still trusted.
I think you'll have non-OPCAT stuff this year.
I think so. I think that's the plan. I'm not sure what stage they're going to come out on. Actually, this would be a good report, like a good catch up, like where all the various Bitcoin L2s are. I know we have a Bitcoin L2 report. It's
like almost great. A year old though now.
It'd be nice to get an update because I do think it's like super important. It'd be a good report. I need to catch up on this anyway. That would be super bearish. That's another like thing that would be super bearish ETH if Bitcoin L2s took off. I feel like
What percentage of like Bitcoin holders do you think want to use these things? Like put their Bitcoin in smart contracts, take loans against it. Obviously, it's there are risks associated with doing so.
But if it's a trustless bridge, I feel like a lot more people become interested.
There's no such thing.
Let's say 2.5%. That's 50 bill, right there. It's like you don't need a big percentage to do it. Also, people will buy Bitcoin to then do it too. So it's not just like the current holders that.
I think there's like 10,000 Bitcoin right now in the current Bitcoin L2s, like which
Babylon
are basically
and
like
stuff.
Yeah, and like Bob and all the other ones. So I do think that can like 10x or something with if it's not a multi-sig. Like, yeah, I think Bitcoiners actually really care about this, and because a lot of these are going to go EVM. So you could literally have, if you had like a ZK bridge or something trust minimized, even an optimistic bridge, and then like some really proven code base, like an Aave code base or a Morpho code base, where you could just deposit your Bitcoin and borrow like USDC or something like that, or even like a MakerDAO, like CDP on your Bitcoin. I do think that stuff would get some traction.
Yeah, I guess you don't really need that much to make it super worthwhile, right?
Yeah.
I'm always interested in this one because like I could see the argument for people not wanting to, you know, put their Bitcoin in things, but also like anybody who's in finance, like, you know, borrowing
What
money
did
against
BlockFi
their
get
crypto.
up to in terms of
Yeah, that's
deposits?
kind of where I was going. Like, I wonder, like, I mean, with you know, Bitcoin ETFs going live, obviously there's crypto custody solutions that exist with, like, you know, CeFi, or not even CeFi, just like traditional finance, right? I would imagine they're also going to extend credit solutions for crypto assets, specifically Bitcoin. So I'm curious, like, what the breakdown is going to be. Like, are more people going to gravitate towards these more crypto native solutions, or are they going to go to places like JP Morgan, where, you know, it's centralized, obviously, but you do have more recourse if something, God forbid, goes wrong, right? Will all the people who are like in TradFi buying Bitcoin now, either through ETFs or whatever, like, will they, like, what will they go towards? Because I think that's the majority of where Bitcoin demand is coming from in the future, generally. Not really crypto native. So I'm just curious. It's not something that's like actionable in any way. I'm just kind of interested to see how it plays out over the next couple of years, because it's something that, like, I think about. Like, I have all this, like, not all of this, like, I don't have that much Bitcoin, but like, I have Bitcoin. Like, I don't know what the best way to get liquidity on it in the future is, because, like, I never want to sell it, obviously. Kind of like Sailor, but getting liquidity on it
I'm kind of like
is,
Sailor like that.
yeah, you know, pretty much the same with our stacks. But like, getting liquidity on it in, you know, tax advantage ways is like an
Yeah, the
obvious
borrow
solution,
lend is, I think, is
right?
So right
an obvious
now,
thing that hasn't been
if I go to bitcoinlayers.org, there is 32 billion that is off Bitcoin in like
What?
L2s,
That sounds
L2s.
high.
There's, I mean, a lot of these have very, like, there's, so like Merlin has 21,000 BTC, which
Bitcoin
is
layers.
a good amount. There's, like, you know, this is counting everything, like the amount on Ethereum, right? The amount on Arbitrum, Base, Solana. What's interesting is that they don't have Babylon on here. But yeah,
Ethereum.
like Bob is this Bitcoin rollup. It has 2,600. But yeah, bitcoinlayers.org has,
This is
like,
actually quite a bit.
yeah, it's like 32 bill. And these are, none of these are like real, like, except for Lightning Network,
Yeah.
which it's like, it just has like Lightning Network's issues are usability and everything, but security wise, it's like, it's good across the board. These are all like very insecure things. So then, like, think about if you actually get real solutions that come out, right?
Yeah, that's actually a lot.
All right.
Big.
So we wanna wrap it.
Yeah, let's wrap. Nice. This was a good one in the end. Didn't seem like we had much to talk about, but we did it. Although we didn't have our revenue debate really. We can continue that maybe next time. It's also a shame
Not
we didn't
going
have Jan
anywhere.
here for the AI framework stuff, because he's
Yeah.
been all over this.
He's definitely deep
But
in it.
yeah, thanks guys for joining, and Jason for filling in for Jan. Another great episode, and I'll see all you guys again in 2 weeks.
Yeah. See everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
See you guys.
Yeah.